Now can everybody hear me? Well, thank you, Leanne. I genuinely appreciate that. And more importantly, can everybody hear me? All right, now we're in business. Let's try this again. I love technical snafus. I really do. Hang on. Got to do this right. What show cannot start properly without music? Start without music. Now what? Oh, I tell you the truth. I just love moments like this. It just kills me. There we go. Now I can hear the music. Okay, now we're back in business. Oh, thank you. Ah. Hello, sir. How are you? Good to have you here, Welsh. All right. Let's try that again. How do I start this show? Hi, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, as always, to Front Porch Brunch, a weekly gathering of good folks who like to talk about the news and see what's going on out there and see if we can figure out everything. So there you go. I am sometimes known as the fine fella in the fedora, sometimes called the common man with common sense, along with a few other nicknames. So it is good to see everybody. Glad to see everyone is here. We've got a nice, lively little crowd so far. And it has been, as always, a wild week for me. For everybody out there on YouTube and Rumble and Twitter, yes, we are back, and there is now sound. I've got to put that in my pre checklist. Always make sure that StreamYards is checking for your microphone. Got to remember to do that. Anyway, oh, that's not good. Well, we'll see if we can do something about that. I'm not sure we're going to cure the fact that you're in a bad mood, but there you go. Yes, I know. Leave me alone. It's coming. We'll put that way. Anyway. Oh, it has been a wild week for me, and a wild week for this channel, no less. So before I get started into the news, I owe my audience an enormous thank you. And this goes back actually to November 30th, the night that we did that live stream for the Ron DeSantis Gavin Newsom debate. This channel has been on an absolute upward run of growth. I've never seen anything quite like this. We've got people subscribing to the channel. We got people watching it. We got watch hours are on the increase. Everything is just coming up roses, and that is all due to you. That is all due to every last one of you subscribing and spreading the word and sending out tweets and everything else. You guys are just amazing. And I'm looking over at Rumble and I see Z Highness is over there. Good morning, my dear. Oh, and by the way, while I'm thinking of it, Leanne, thank you for the compliment again about the fedora. I was actually looking at some pictures of Warren Beatty's version of Dick Tracy, and I'm starting to believe I look like Big Boy Caprice in this outfit. So I just don't know where that's going to go, but whatever. So yes, the fedora is a new addition. It will definitely be here at Christmas time and certain other holidays of the year that I think are appropriate. And yeah, like I said, it's been a wild week for this channel. We did from last Saturday to now 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 live streams. I'm pretty sure at a minimum 2 videos. And well, I'm doing good, Welsh. I really am. I'm doing real good. Thank you for asking me. I'm doing good. Appreciate you being here, brother. Especially knowing probably what time of the day it is in your part of the world. And literally, folks, if you don't know anything about Welsh, go check out his channel because this man is like the outpost of truth from New Zealand. This guy is genuinely good. Check him out. Give him a sub. He does probably one of the best interviews on the internet. Hands down, no competition. One of the best. And Yeah, it's been a wild, wild week. And then there's all the fun stuff. And I must give you, my audience, a certain amount of apology. Normally, there's a certain rhythm to the production that I'm putting out, and that is, um, usually there's like 3 or 4 videos. There's usually like at least one live stream for sure, if nothing else, Front Porch Brunch on Saturdays. Well, this week got fouled up due to medical issues. Now, don't worry. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. I had to go in Friday morning for everyone's favorite colonoscopy. Yeah. Yes. Yes, a very crappy situation, but I managed to make my way through it. So there you go. Do you activate subscribers? No, no. I always set it up so anybody can chat. But that's just me. You know, you don't necessarily have to be a subscriber to my channel to comment and chat. No, I set it up so that anybody can chat. You know, it's kind of the way I look at it. But yeah, I had to go in for a colonoscopy on Friday, which meant that Thursday I had to do all the wonderful preparation work, and we'll just leave it at that, because if any of y'all have ever been through a colonoscopy, you know what I'm referring to. And Friday was more or less, I was worthless, just absolutely worthless. Then again, looking back on it, I'm not sure I should have used that sound effect to describe, what happens to you after a colonoscopy, but never mind. But you get my idea. I wasn't worth a dime the whole rest of Friday. So some of the normally of what I do here on the channel was a little bit off for the week, and doing like 2 live streams back to back kind of threw me off too, because it's like, you know. But yeah, it's been a wild, wild week. Thank every last one of you who have subscribed, who are spreading the word, who are doing everything you can to help this going little concern be a going big concern, because it is paying off. And I cannot thank all of you enough. You guys are just absolutely awesome, and I mean that. Truly, you guys are great. So yeah, it's onward and upward from here. It's just, but December's kind of a slower month of the year, but there's still things going on, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's just dive right in, because like I said, I've got a string of tabs up here, and we'll do our best to get through everything. I'm contemplating adding an additional hour come January. See how that goes. No, you weren't in the doghouse. I'm not sure why I wouldn't let you chat. I'm not sure why I would do that, Traveler. Because I mean, unless something happened that I either forgot to do it or what, normally I set them up that anybody can chat, as far as that's concerned. So I'm not sure why I was doing that to you. And well, okay. Thank you with the Santa fedora. Appreciate it. My good buddy Ruben Christopher Haynes is hanging out there. Great co-host, by the way. Absolutely great co-host. Glad to have him around for live streams and stuff like that. So let's dive into the news. So, everyone's favorite presidential son now has more issues that he now has to deal with. I will start you first with our friends at the Associated Press, and we read the following. Hunter Biden indicted on 9 tax charges, adding to gun charges in special counsel investigation. Article written by Lindsay Whitehurst. Hunter Biden was indicted on 9 tax charges in California as special counsel investigation into the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son intensifies against the backdrop of the 2024 election. Dun, dun, dun. The new charges filed Thursday, 3 felonies and 6 misdemeanors, are in addition to federal firearms charges in Delaware alleging Hunter Biden broke laws against drug users having guns in 2018. They come after the implosion of a plea deal over the summer that would have spared him jail time, putting the case on track to a possible trial as his father campaigns for re-election. Hunter Biden, quote, spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle rather than paying his tax bills, special counsel David Weiss said in a statement. The charges are centered on at least $1.4 million in taxes Hunter Biden owed during between 2016 and 2019, a period where he has acknowledged struggling with addiction. The back taxes have since been paid. Okay. If convicted, Hunter Biden, 53, would receive a maximum of 17 years in prison. The special counsel probe remains open, Weiss said. In a fiery response, defense attorney Abby Lowell accused Weiss of, quote, bowing to Republican pressure in the case. Quote, based on the facts and the law, if Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, the charges in Delaware and now in California would not have been brought. That's a statement to chew on. But yeah, we'll maybe come back around to that. But that's definitely based on the facts and the law. If Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, let's say Jones, these charges would not have been brought. That's interesting. Anyway, old Hunter is now got himself more legal troubles. So let's talk about this for a minute. I am sure that there are people out there that when they heard this news were just practically jumping for joy. And, you know, regardless of whether I like Hunter Biden, don't like Hunter Biden, I will say something that's probably going to surprise people. I don't want to see the guy go through this. I don't want to see any American go through this. I don't want to see any American be in trouble with the law. Okay? Because I think it's a reflection of, you know, quite obviously they may have done something wrong purposefully to try to advantage themselves or other people. Okay? Don't get me wrong. I mean, if he is guilty of that which he's accused, yes, he should face the maximum penalties under the law. I got no problem with that. And as far as I'm concerned, the law should treat all people equally. Abby Lowell's statement aside. But here's my question, and I say this with a certain amount of cynicism. Is this everything that it's all cracked up to be? Well, what do you mean, Front Porch? The guy's being charged. He could go to jail for 17 years if he's judicially hanged on all these charges. Guy's going to be behind bars for 17 years in the slammer wearing an orange jumpsuit. Is this everything it's cracked up to be? I got a feeling not so much. And I almost have a feeling this is going to wind up short-circuiting certain other things that ought to logically happen. But on positive notes, let's point out a few other things. This is from the Washington Examiner. Hunter Biden indictment is total vindication for whistleblowers. A piece written by Byron York, who we affectionately refer to here on the Front Porch as the Owl. Hunter Biden indictment is total vindication for whistleblowers. Remember when 2 IRS whistleblowers came forward to charge the Biden administration gave the president's son Hunter special treatment in the tax investigation into his business affairs? The 2 whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, both of whom were deeply involved in the Hunter Biden investigation, offered proof that the IRS had an open and shut case that Hunter Biden evaded taxes on large amounts of money he had made from foreign sources. But the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware and the larger Justice Department would not pursue it, and both men were removed from the case in retaliation for having the temerity to point out the inaction. Capitol Hill Democrats sought to dismiss the whistleblower allegations. Investigators are often gung-ho, they said, and while Justice Department prosecutors have to measure carefully whether a criminal case is warranted, and in this case, Democrats maintained 0 charges were warranted against Hunter Biden. But the facts were the facts. Shapley and Ziegler's testimony supported the Republican charge that the Justice Department officials stifled and slow-walked the investigation. GOP agitation forced the U.S. attorney leading the inquiry, David Weiss, to seek special counsel status, giving him the freedom to resume his investigation. Okay, I'll agree with that. I think York is right. I think that it is safe to say that these new charges, for these 2 men at least, are a vindication of the story that they were trying to tell everybody. That, yeah, there were certain people slow-walking this thing. There were certain people who were trying to, shall we say, lessen the blow of what was happening to old Hunter. So yeah, that's a positive. I agree. These two men have been proven right. And there is nothing more satisfying than not only knowing you're right, but being proven that you're right. How and in the euphoria of this news in the media, some people are wondering if there's not even more to this. I take you to CBS News, Catherine Herridge, for her comments. And this runs about 1:18. I don't know if we're going to play the whole thing, but we'll play parts of it. I want you to hear what she has to say with regard to something that is mentioned almost in passing at the beginning of the indictment, and then what it might mean. So take a listen to this.
There could be more charges. What makes you think that?
It's just my reading of the document. In the first page, I think the language is that they describe him as a lobbyist. Lobbyists have to register under what's called FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is a government way of saying that if you're working on behalf of foreign interests, you have to tell the U.S. government. In this case, the indictment spends a lot of time talking about Hunter Biden's business deals with the Ukraine energy firm Burisma. It also talks about his work with a Chinese energy firm, CEFC, and it also talks about his work with Romania. And that to me seems to leave the door open to potential FARA violations. I also would add that there has been some reporting subpoenas have been issued for his business partner, the president's brother, James Biden, and that would go to the idea of FARA, working together, lobbying on behalf of foreign interests. Now,
okay, now everybody seems to be getting pretty excited about all this. Oh my gosh, we've got Foreign Agent Registration Act violation potential here. Could it be that really, really heavy charges are coming down? I mean, it seems like some people are just getting all a Twitter about this. Woo, my Lord. And Biden, once again, Joe is sticking to his absolute ironclad, in his mind, ironclad defense of his actions. Biden denies lies that he talked with his son, brother's business partners, despite evidence of contacts. So there is much in the news about Hunter and his dad, etc., and so on. However, before everybody gets excited, some things to point out. Number one, I have said before, and I'll say again, this audience is perceptively brilliant. This is the smartest audience on the internet, and I'll give you two examples. Hunter Biden distraction will only make him the fall guy, and then mainstream media will shield Creepy Joe. The deep state and the globalists will use it to attack those not supporting the narrative. Move on. That's what they're going to say. And my friend Gypsy, God love her heart, you're almost beating me to the punch. But then again, my audience is just that good. They're just that good. And that's why I call them the smartest audience on the internet. They're out ahead of the host, which is perfectly fine by me. Don't get me wrong. I would much rather my audience look brilliant as opposed to its host. Okay. But y'all are already going somewhere. And I've set this up deliberately. Everybody's all a Twitter about these charges that have been brought down against Hunter Biden. Oh my God, he's had 9 new indictments handed down. He could go to jail for 17 years. Oh my God, they're finally going to get it. And hold up. Some things to point out. This is from Sean Davis. Unsurprisingly, Special Prosecutor Weiss refuses to charge Hunter for foreign influence peddling, registered foreign agent violations, or anything related to the Biden family's Burisma shakedown when Joe was vice president. Weiss intends to crack down on Hunter while continuing to run interference for Joe and the Biden crime family operation. Now, what could he be referring to? Well, Ruben, I love you, and you're brilliant, and you're good, and I'm going to show you why you are just that good if you don't believe in yourself, which I know you do. Why is Sean Davis so down on all this when everybody else seems to be aghast and giddy and thinking finally justice will be had? Justice could be done. Charges are going to be brought. These guys are going to see their day in court. Well, there's a reason that Sean Davis is very skeptical of all this. And the person who best sums up Sean Davis's reasoning is the inestimable Jonathan Turley. New York Post, Hunter indictment designed specifically to avoid Joe, by Jonathan Turley. I'm going to read most of this, and I'll do my best to make it speedy but articulate. The 56-page indictment of Hunter Biden for tax evasion marks for racy reading, while the special counsel describing a 4-year criminal pattern directed at maintaining Biden's, quote, extravagant lifestyle. That lifestyle included massive expenses for strippers, sex clubs, fast cars, and other distractions. The steps taken by Hunter to evade taxes are indeed impressive, but not nearly as impressive as the efforts of the Justice Department to evade any direct implication for his father, President Joe Biden. In that sense, the indictment itself is a marvel of evasion. And Gypsy, you are brilliant, just brilliant. There are 3 glaring omissions in the indictment that tend to shield critical payments and conduct that implicate the president. Number 1, the Burisma Ukrainian money. First, the special counsel only indicts tax evasion that occurred in recent years. That's because the long, quote, investigation into Hunter inexplicably allowed the statute of limitations to expire on the most controversial payments from Ukraine gas company Burisma. Reading a little bit further into this article, recent testimony from IRS whistleblowers suggests that was not an accident. Investigators were stonewalled, they claimed, and the Justice Department was previously moving to reject any charges against Hunter Biden. Exploring those earlier Ukrainian payments opens up questions about Hunter's influence peddling and would have highlighted the conflict in his father's extraordinary move to force the Ukrainians to fire a prosecutor investigating Burisma by holding back $1 billion in aid for the country. There is still no explanation why Special Counsel David Weiss would allow the statute of limitations to run out, but this recent indictment keeps the focus squarely on taxes not paid, not on how the money was earned in the first place. And that is a great point. Now, don't get me wrong. As I said, if somebody does something wrong before the law, if it can be proven in a court and everything else, then yes, that person should face whatever the penalties of the law are for their actions. I absolutely agree with that. But Turley brings up an absolutely brilliant point. Everybody is focused on what he did with the money. Nobody's asking, or let me rephrase that. The special counsel is not willing to dive deep into the question of, hey, exactly how did Hunter earn this money? What were the circumstances behind his ability to rake in all these millions of dollars? How is it that this guy is just, with no expertise in the field, has all these connections, is doing all these deals, is making all this money? Is he doing this by himself? Is he getting any help? Is his dad involved? And Turley's absolutely right. And it's a brilliant point to make. Everybody's going to look at what Hunter did with the money or didn't do with the money. They're not going to ask the question, how did he earn it? We go further into the article. Hunter, the foreign agent. Also missing in the indictment is any charge against Hunter as an unregistered foreign agent. Recently, the Justice Department added a charge to the indictment of Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, that he ran afoul of FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. FARA was also used to go after Donald Trump associates such as Paul Manafort. The problem with charging Hunter with FARA is obvious. It opens up questions about the millions of dollars going to the Biden family from foreign sources, a topic that Attorney General Merrick Garland has spent years avoiding. We read a little bit further into the article. In the second indictment, Weiss spends more time detailing the salacious use of the money rather than how and why it was given to the Bidens. He just matter-of-factly describes millions of dollars flowing through these accounts from China, Romania, Ukraine, Russia, and other countries. And again, he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Third, excuse me 1 second, folks. The unindicted co-conspirator. By focusing on tax evasion alone, Weiss again avoids any direct reference to the focus on influence peddling used to raise these millions of dollars. Even without mentioning the president, the implications of the indictment are devastating for the narrative and denials of Joe Biden. The president has continued to maintain that he had no knowledge or interaction with these dealings. Those statements are clearly and knowingly false. The president also maintained that his son has never done anything wrong and never accepted any money from China. That is also untrue, according to the Justice Department and Hunter himself. Yet Weiss continues to avoid any need to address the person who was the selling point for the influence peddling. It's the same person who repeatedly called into dinners and meetings, repeatedly attended events, and held meetings and photo shots with these clients. Instead, Weiss indicts the failure to pay taxes on the proceeds of these dealings without addressing that underlying corruption. It is akin to arresting a bank robber for speeding away from the scene of the crime without mentioning the reason for his flight. That's a great line. I got to read that again. It's akin to arresting a bank robber for speeding away from the scene of the crime without mentioning the reason for his flight. In a scandal with dozens of references to the president and millions sent for influence and access, it took a steady hand for Weiss to avoid ever touching President Biden's role. That was a truly Homeric feat, unseen since the Greek hero Odysseus won a competition by shooting an arrow through the tiny hole of a dozen axe heads. It takes perfect aim to avoid any contact. It is itself the very model of evasion. That is a brilliant, brilliant article. And you now begin to understand why certain people are not all that excited, or maybe I should say, they're not all that expectant that much is going to come out of this. Oh, now Hunter Biden may see jail time, which, by the way, sets up a fascinating possibility. Let's assume for a moment that Hunter Biden goes into court and Hunter Biden is convicted and he is sentenced to jail time. Let's say before the 2024 election. Do I wish it on the guy? No, I don't wish it on the guy, but let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say it happens. Does his dad pardon him? Now normally you would say, okay, if he's going to do it, he'd do it after the election. But if you're Joe Biden, do you really want to do that? Or maybe a better question, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, I'm asking this, trying to be fair about this. If you are at the center of an influence peddling operation, can you afford to take the chance of waiting until after the election to pardon Hunter, if it happens that way? we can always explore that question on another occasion. And traveler, you may absolutely be right. You may be right. But I will counter with this. There are whistleblowers who've come forward, like Turley said in the article, that, have been telling everybody, hey, look, we told David Weiss you could be going after him for Hunter Biden for this and for this and for this and for this. And it got slow walked. And then finally the statute of limitations come up. We can't charge him with any of the stuff that we told the special prosecutor, hey, you really need to go after this guy for this stuff, because we've got stone cold evidence to prove it. Just a counterpoint. So yes, Hunter has got problems, and oh boy, has he got problems, which means his dad has problems, as if his dad does not have enough of them, and we are about to get into that. But before we do, I will do my little commercial here. It is currently 11:05 a.m. on Saturday morning. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. You are watching Front Porch Brunch, our little weekly gathering where we get together with some really good people. We talk about what's going on in the news. And we've got a very lively bunch here. We've got the Traveler, we've got Larry, we've got Ruben, we've got Zehynus, we've got Gypsy. Yeah, we've got a really good crew. Love everybody who's here. Glad you're here. If you're out there watching, feel free to drop a comment in chat. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, or channels, I should say, I have channels on not only on YouTube, but on Rumble. So yeah, please feel free that, if you're not a subscriber, give me a sub. I'll be glad to have your support. And we've got people here who don't necessarily agree with me on everything, and that's perfectly fine. They're welcome here. I may not agree with them on everything, but people who agree with me, they may not agree with me on everything. That's cool too. But you're welcome here anytime. So like I said, Hunter's got problems and Dad's got problems, and God, does he have all kinds of problems. Most of these are political. So we'll get into this in just 1 second. Pardon me while I agua for a second. So yeah, Dad's got problems. He's got a bunch of them. A bunch. Let's talk about the political problems. And this is absolutely fascinating to me because I came across some articles and some new polls that have come out. And one of the polls goes to something, one of the biggest reasons why Biden's having trouble. But to set that up, I want to show you some of the most recent stuff that's come out. And one of them came out this morning. I didn't realize it until maybe about 2 hours ago. Let me take you to realclearpolitics.com. This is the rolling average of polls that have come out from the beginning of November to now. And it's got a wide swath of different people. Rasmussen, Quinnipiac, Reuters, Ipsos, Harvard, Harris, Tip Poll, Morning Consult, Harris X, YouGov, Emerson, Wall Street. So we're talking all over the place. Different pollsters, slightly different methods of ideology, or not methods, methodologies, excuse me. Slightly different methodologies. But they're all more or less coming to the same conclusion in one form or another, to one degree or another, to one result or another. And that's this. At a minimum, head-to-head, Joe Biden is tied with Donald Trump. Worst case scenario for Joe Biden is that he's losing to Donald Trump. Now, to Biden and a significant portion of the Democratic Party, this makes no sense whatsoever. It is anathema to them. That idea cannot possibly be true. The man, in their minds, was responsible for January 6th. In their minds, he is a buffoon. In their minds, he's belligerent. In their minds, he was terrible for the economy. Go down the list of complaints the Democrats and progressives and liberals have about Donald Trump. And to a man or woman, they will say every one of them is absolutely true. He's horrible. He's awful. How could we possibly be losing to this guy? Now, in this average, Trump is up by like 2.2 on average. Make it a little bit worse, if you throw in other candidates, nationally speaking, Trump has an almost 6-point lead. Now, this sort of begs the question, why? Why is it that Joe Biden, with in his opinion, a very good economy, with everything that's going on domestically, we got job growth creation, we got this going for us, we got that going for. Why am I losing to this guy? All right, let's get into that. I want to take you. Well, before I do that, to tell you how bad it's getting for Biden, take a look at this. Donald Trump is making a concerted effort to win in New Jersey. That's a headline that came across Breitbart, I think 2 days ago, maybe. Let me look at the date on this thing. No, this was yesterday. Yeah, Donald Trump is making a concerted effort to win New Jersey. Now, I said how bad are things getting for Biden? Let me tell you how bad they're getting. Do you know the last time when New Jersey went Republican in a presidential election? 1988. Let me say it again. New Jersey has not gone Republican in a presidential election since 1988. And now you got Trump trying to get New Jersey. He feels like he's on offense, or at least in his mind he is. I mean, he's going to make... I'll make you a prediction. Trump's going to make plays for Minnesota, Virginia, maybe Colorado, possibly New Mexico, and other places you wouldn't think that a Republican would ever campaign in. Does that mean he's going to spend advertising dollars there? No idea. But it wouldn't surprise me if he starts showing up for appearances, doing rallies. Would not surprise me in the slightest. I remember back in 2016, Trump did one appearance in the state of Minnesota. It was an airport rally, maybe, I think, the weekend before the election. And for the life of me, I could not figure out why, in God's name, Donald Trump was going to Minnesota. It was an airport rally. Literally, the plane taxis in. He walks down this long ramp. He does a half an hour, 45-minute speech, thanks everybody, gets back on the plane, leaves, comes within a 1.5 of winning Minnesota. So that's how bad things are going for Biden. But that sort of begs the question, why? Well, I came across a really good article. And I'll read it to you here in just a second, but a couple other things to point out. It's gotten so bad that there are people out there begging him to drop out. And the names would surprise you. Check this out. This is from thehill.com. Charlemagne the God calls on Biden to drop out of presidential race. Article written by Judy Kurtz. Charlemagne the God says President Biden can give voters the ultimate Christmas gift by not running for re-election. I think he knows he's got it. I know he thinks he's got this in the bag, but the polls say otherwise. The Breakfast Club radio personality, whose real name is Leonard McKelvey, said of Biden while guest hosting The Daily Show on Wednesday. Biden in recent months has largely brushed off low poll numbers that some experts say could serve as warning signs for his 2024 re-election bid. I want Biden stepping in to beat Trump the way I want him stepping in to defend me in a bar fight. I appreciate you caring, but I don't like our chances. Charlemagne told the Comedy Central show audience to laugh. So the point is, we don't need Biden to beat Trump, just like we didn't need Ruth Bader Ginsburg to stay on the court. Maybe if RBG had retired during the Obama years, we'd still have Roe v. Wade. But people said, no, 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 she needs to be here to protect Roe. And now look, both of them are gone. Good point. Ginsburg died in 2020 at age 87. The Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade, ending the constitutional right to abortion last year. Quote, the facts are Biden is not getting any younger, he's not going to get any more popular, and he's not getting a new running mate, Charlemagne said. So please, Mr. President, give America the ultimate Christmas gift and step aside. Well, man, he is royally unpopular with a whole bunch of people right now. And then Biden said something that really kind of blew my mind. And it was this. Biden says he might not have sought re-election if Trump weren't running. Fundraiser remark comes amid voter concerns about Biden's age. We cannot let him win, Biden says of his predecessor, Trump. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that has got to be the crappiest reason I've ever heard of for running for re-election. Now, if you wonder what I'm talking about, I'll tell you. If someone's running for office, doesn't matter what the position is, it is hoped that you give a positive affirmative as to why it is someone should vote for you. Or at least that's the hope. Give me a positive reason why that I should vote for you. Biden's justification? Well, I've got to run to make sure Trump doesn't win. Not what you could do for the country, not what you think your vision is, not what you want to do to better the situation of the American people. It's I've got to run to win to make sure the other guy loses. I'm sorry, that's not a particularly healthy way to get people to vote for you. But I asked my question a little while ago, why is it that the Joe Biden, why is it that Joe Biden is having all these troubles against Donald Trump? I take you to an article from the Liberal Patriots Substack account. The article is written by a gentleman named Rue Texiera. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Hang on to that, traveler. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that one. I've got a point to make on that, but I'll come back to it. Oh, thank you, sir. It's very nice of you. You did not have to do that. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it. Here's an article, and I'm going to read this. And again, I'll do my best to be concise but quick. The Democrat coalition is falling apart. Where is the popular front against Trumpism? By Rue Texiera. Let's face it, the Democrat coalition is in poor shape. It's springing leaks everywhere. Young voters, Hispanic voters, black voters, women voters, working class voters, moderate and independent voters. Of course, some Democrats dismiss the accumulating evidence as irrelevant because it's too early, too biased, or not consistent with recent positive election results. It reminds me of the widely shared meme of the anthropomorphic dog calmly sipping his coffee in a burning room saying, "This is fine." And for sure, it is early. But these are very disturbing data that indicate the scale of the Democrat challenge in 2024. Two recent data releases document this ongoing decay of the Democratic coalition. First, looking at the national picture, Adam Carlson at the excellent Split Ticket data analytics site has produced a compilation of cross-tabular data that allows us to compare average current Democrat performance with Democratic performance from 2020 and to estimate shifts in preference since the election by key group. The second data source is a major survey of battleground states and districts by Democracy Corps Greenberg Research that provides some rich demographic breakdowns of vote preference and opinion where the 2024 election will almost certainly be decided. The Democratic base as a whole. Hang on one second. You're going to do this to me? How dare you? There we go. This group isn't in the split ticket data, but it displayed in the DC Corp's battleground data. In their definition, the Democratic base is an amalgamation of Democratic-friendly demographic groups: Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, LGBTQ plus community, Gen Z, millennials, unmarried, and college women. Overall, across the constellation of groups, Biden trails Trump in the presidential battleground by 4 points. No better for Biden than among all voters in the battleground. These base voters also give Trump a higher approval rating than Biden. 3/4 think the country is off on the wrong track. Their most pressing issue by far for the country is inflation and the cost of living. Crime, homelessness, and violence is second, while interestingly, abortion only ranks 8th. I'm going to read that again. Crime, let's see, their most pressing issue by far for the country is inflation and the cost of living. Crime, homelessness, and violence is second, while interesting, abortion only ranks 8th. Okay, I'm going to say something about this for a second. There has been much made about how the abortion issue right now is kryptonite for the Republicans. And I can't necessarily disagree with that, but I disagree with the reason why it's kryptonite. And let me explain what I'm getting at. Around the country, ever since Roe went down, particularly starting probably in Kansas, because there have been various state referendum on this, the pro-life community has absolutely been getting kicked in the teeth electorally. And some people have come to the conclusion, well, that means abortion is a bad issue for Republicans. It's a bad issue for Republicans and pro-lifers because I would argue they don't know how to read the room. Now, here's what I'm getting at. Lay aside where somebody is on the question of abortion. Okay, for my part, I am pro-life. Okay. But there also comes a point when electorally, you can only move the needle as far as it will go, and you cannot go any further than that point. Now, here's what I'm getting at. From my perspective, and maybe this is just me, it seems to me like the pro-life community and or some Republicans are getting too greedy for too much all at once. In other words, if your state is at a point that, okay, we don't like abortion, we still want to have it, but only under these conditions. Okay, while you may not agree with that totally, that's as far electorally as you're going to be able to go. Until you change the minds of people and bring them over to your side of the argument as to why that's not even a good position, go no further than where you can go electorally. The pro-life community, like I said, in my book, got too greedy too fast. They saw Roe go down and they thought, the whole country's with us. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. What the Supreme Court gave you was the pro-life community, of which I count myself as one of them. What they gave the pro-life community was the opportunity to make their case in 50 individual states, and then from there, let the state decide how the question of abortion ought to be handled. And really, if you get right down to it from a judicial standpoint, that's all anybody's ever wanted all along. Why not let the 50 state legislatures make up their mind on this question, as opposed to 9 people in black robes in Washington, D.C.? Now, to the question of this election that's coming up. Democrats are out there like, oh, abortion's going to do the Republicans in. No. Go back to the article. Their most pressing issue by far for the country is inflation and cost of living. Crime, homelessness, and violence is second, and increasingly, abortion ranks 8th. The abortion issue, while it is important, is not the kryptonite that it could be for some Republican candidates. Right now, everybody has got on their mind, how am I going to afford putting food on my table and gasoline in my car and making my house payment and making sure that I have a job and making sure that someone's not going to steal from me. And look at the violence in the streets. They're not thinking about the abortion issue. It's important, but on a list of priorities, it's down here and everything else is above it. Just thought I'd point that out. We continue. Going through each demographic group, young voters. Here's the one that I think is just amazing. Split ticket data shows Biden carrying 18 to 29-year-olds by only 16 points. A 7-point pro-Trump shift relative to 2020. Among 30 to 44-year-olds, primarily millennials, Biden is ahead by only 8 points, a 6-point shift toward Trump. And I'm going to show you something here in a minute that backs up what this guy's saying. The D.C. court battleground data suggests the situation may be particularly dire with white Gen Z and millennial voters. Trump is 28 points ahead of Biden among white Gen Z voters in the presidential battleground and 25 points ahead among white millennials. Their most pressing issue by far is inflation and the cost of living. Among white Gen Z voters, Biden's approval rating is 27% compared to 59% for Trump. Hispanic voters. The measured pro-Trump shift here is particularly startling. Biden's average lead among Hispanics is a mere 5 points, an 18-point decline from his lead in 2020. Black voters. Biden is averaging a 52-point lead among black voters. This may sound good, but it actually represents a precipitous 29-point drop from Biden's 81% lead in 2020. Women. The split ticket data shows Biden's average lead among women voters is at 6 points, down 7 points from his 2020 showing. Working class voters. Split ticket data shows Trump averaging solid leads among both high school or less and some college. This lead represents respectively a 5-point to 7.5-point shift toward Trump relative to 2020. Independents and moderates. Split ticket data shows Trump leading Biden by 6 points among independents, 15 points among turnaround from Biden's 9-point lead in 2020. It's no doubt seems odd to Democrats that voters in the center, independents and moderates, aren't flocking to their banners because surely they all know and believe that chaos agent Trump and his anti-democratic Republican Party represents everything that is immoderate and super partisan in American politics. But here's the problem. These voters don't necessarily see Trump and the Republicans as clearly being the worst in these areas. In the D.C. court poll, battleground voters prefer Trump and the Republicans over Biden, and the Democrats on opposing extremism by 3 points. Getting beyond the chaos by 6, standing up to elites by 8, protecting the Constitution by 8, and putting country over party by 8 points. These voters see the parties as tied on democracy being secured and give Biden and the Democrats negligible leads of 2 points on the president not being able to act as autocrats. Similarly, in a recent consult poll, voters deemed the Democratic Party more ideologically extreme than the Republicans by 9 points. Whoa! I want to read that again. In the recent morning consult poll, voters deemed the Democratic Party more ideologically extreme than the Republicans by 9 points. Now, if you know anything about morning consult, this is not some kind of a GOP-friendly poll, okay? They are not. Some people have accused them over the years of being like pro-Democrat. I'm not going to get into that argument at all. But my point is this. For them to have a poll that says that the Democratic Party is viewed more extreme than the Republicans, and this is supposedly a Democrat-friendly pollster, it ought to tell you something. Just saying. But we continue. And in a poll conducted by the Liberal Patriot and YouGov, more voters thought the Democrats had moved too far left on cultural and social issues than the Republicans had moved too far to the right. Something clearly is not working here for the Democrats. Despite turning it up to 11 on the threat posed by Trump to democracy throughout Biden's presidency, voters don't seem to be stampeding in their direction. The big lead the Democrats feel they should naturally have is not appearing. To me, this raises the question, where is the popular front against Trumpism? If he is indeed as bad as most Democrats seem to believe, shouldn't Democrats be casting the net as wide as possible, compromising on anything and everything to make their party maximally accessible to persuadable voters? After all, they've got to stop fascism here, but that's not what's happening. It's hard to understand, and the great irony here is that progressive Democrats, who are precisely the ones who are the most hysterical about the threat posed by Trump and Trumpism, are also the ones most adamantly opposed to making any compromise on border security as part of this deal, or anything else for that matter. This is not a recipe for success. I suppose that's because they really don't want a popular front against Trumpism, but rather a popular front for all the stuff they feel comfortable supporting. But that's not how a popular front works, and it's certainly not how Democrats are going to rebuild and expand their coalition for 2024. Instead, such a sectarian approach simply enhances the real possibility that Donald Trump will win next November. I'm putting this in the chat. If you guys want to read this, take a look at it for yourself. I think this is a great article. Absolutely great article. Hang on for 1 second, please. There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's a great article. A really, really thoughtful article. And I want to go back. I want to go back to something that if Biden drops out, this will kill the months, years of anti-Biden narrative congressional Republicans and Trump super PAC have built within the minds of independent voters. That, all right, fair point. I could give you that. But I want to go back to something that was said a little bit earlier, that if Biden drops out, it's the worst thing could ever happen for Trump, or I should say for Trump's chances of winning. I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. And it's almost the same problem that the Republicans have. And this is my take on it. You're free to disagree with me if you wish. The Democrats don't have a bench. Now, what am I talking about? Basically, it's down to this. It doesn't really matter whose poll you look at. Biden is polling better. For all of his troubles, for all of everything swirling around him right now, Biden is polling better than Gavin Newsom, than Gretchen Whitmer, than anybody else in the Democratic Party. Let me say that again. Biden, despite all his troubles, is polling better than everybody else in the Democratic Party. Now, you can make an argument that's because of name recognition. You can make an argument that's because of whatever. But that's the reality. If Gavin Newsom gets into this thing, which a lot of people think is going to happen, Gavin Newsom is going to have problems in certain parts of the country, particularly the Midwest, and particularly parts of the South. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't win those states, but it's going to be a bigger uphill climb. It really will. No. I didn't say he did. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I'm just giving you my take on it. If I misinterpreted your comment, my apologies. But yeah, Biden's polling better than anybody else. Now, on the other side of that, the Republicans also have a problem. And we'll get to some of that here in a minute. But the problem is this. The Republicans don't have a bench either. Oh, they got all kinds of stars out there. But I don't think any of them in a head-to-head against Biden could beat him. I really don't. Everybody keeps going on about how Nikki Haley is, oh my God, she's 10 points up on Biden. Oh my God. No, Nikki Haley's not going to beat Biden. Neither's DeSantis. They're just not going to. And I think, I know why Nikki Haley won't beat him. Nikki Haley won't beat him because, frankly, she's they will paint her exactly as she is. Too tied to certain interests. And definitely that woman would go to war with somebody over the drop of a hat. Mine included. And she won't get mine, by the way. I like my hats, and I don't give them up to anybody, unless I got a really good reason. And she is not a good reason for me to give up a hat. But you see my point, right? Both parties have a big problem, because after this election, regardless of what happens, Trump wins, Biden wins, regardless of what happens here, there is a vacuum. And it's going to have to be filled at some point, which further on down the line, we've got some other stuff to get into about the generational and, I would argue, ideological change that's going on in American politics and how that's starting to work itself out. But yeah, Biden's got all kinds of problems, just all kinds of them. Which, by the way, I want to play you something here for us in a quick second. Which I think speaks to just how dumb the Republican Party is. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, and given who the irony of it is, given who this observation comes from, it's mind-blowing. It's not just the observation itself that I think is very prescient, it's who it comes from is what cracks me up even more. Now, on this point, Traveler, we definitely agree to disagree. I love you. Just for my part, no. But you're free to support whomever you wish. But I've got to play this clip for you, and then I'm going to make a point related back to some of this data, that article we were just looking at. This comes from Kevin McCarthy, of all people. He's giving a speech, I believe it's the Oxford Union, and it's like a 10-second clip. I want you to hear this, and then I want to comment on it. So do me a favor and take a listen to this.
And when I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America.
Okay. When I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America. Half of that statement is more true than Kevin McCarthy realizes. And the half of it that I think is more true than he realizes is the second part. We look like the most restrictive country club in America. Now, like I said, the irony in this statement is that it's coming from Kevin McCarthy. Yeah. That's part of the irony. That is absolutely part of the irony. And good morning, Flagrant. We're glad to have you here. That's part of the irony of it. But the bigger irony is this. For years, I could argue decades, the Republican Party is viewed as the party of the old fuddy-duddies, okay? The WASPs, the country club crowd, whatever you want to call that. They're looked upon as being snooty elites. And the irony to me right now, in this moment, at this juncture of time, is this. There is a coalition, a governing coalition to be had, comprising of Hispanics, African Americans, non-college educated whites, working class, etc. That coalition is right there. It's not necessarily Democrat, and it ain't necessarily Republican, okay? But it has certain beliefs in the way things should be. That group, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, you think they're right, you think they're wrong, whatever, that group is gravitating to the message that Donald Trump is putting out there. Now, is Donald Trump perfect? Oh, heck no. Heck no. Believe me, I got my problems with Trump on a number of different things. But my point is this. The Republicans have been saying for years, the kind of coalition that I just described is what they've been saying ever since 2012 that they want to bring into the Republican Party. Donald Trump could hand it to him on a platter. If he wins in 2024, he will have handed it to them on a platter. But I guarantee you, the ruling elite inside the Republican Party are so stupid, pardon my language, they'll piss it away. They will just give that away. Everything they've said they ever wanted since 2012, they'll give away. They said they wanted more African Americans in the party. Trump could give it to them. They said they wanted more Hispanics in the party. Trump could give it to them. They said they want more women in the party. Trump could give it to them. They want more working class in the party. Trump could bring it to them. It could be brought right to them over the right set of issues, and particularly if they stand the right way on those issues in the minds of these voters that I just mentioned. Now, right or wrong, in their minds right now, that's what Donald Trump's doing. You can agree with that. You can disagree with that. Whatever. That's fine. I understand that. That's everybody's take. But from my perspective, that's what's happening. There is a new governing coalition to be had. The Republicans could be right on the verge of putting together a governing coalition that could last 20, 25 years, at least. But the Republicans are so stupid, they'll piss it away. They absolutely will. They will absolutely piss it away. And then who knows who these voters go to. It's jump ball. It's like going to center court and two guys jump up. It's jump ball. Who knows who gets them? Oh, mercy. I said that I wanted one other thing, and I swear I'll get off this topic. I said that I'd point out something about the Emerson poll. Why don't you take a look at something? This is Emerson's most recent poll. It shows head-to-head Biden against Trump that Trump's got a 4-point lead nationally. Take a look at the breakdown. Take a look at the breakdown of age groups and look right here. Wait. I'm in the wrong spot. Hang on a minute. Here we go. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. In Emerson's own polling, Biden only has a 5-point lead with the 18 to 29 voting group. In 2020, that lead was way bigger. And some people will argue it was the youth vote that helped propel Biden to victory. Right now, he's only got a 5-point lead. And I absolutely agree with this. They're typically socially conservative, and they'll split their votes between Republicans and Hispanics. And usually, and it's just my observation, the vote splitting will occur on economic issues. And this may be where Trump, I won't say wins them outright in 24, but he'll eat enough into Biden's lead that with everything else, the other gains Trump's making, the Democrats cannot count on that advantage anymore. I'm just saying this data is out there. Anybody wants to look at it. They can come to whatever conclusions they want, but it's starting to be a trend. It is absolutely starting to be a trend. Oh my goodness. Hang on. Oops. Okay. So it is 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. I'm gathered with a really cool bunch of people this Saturday, this Christmas Saturday. By the way, totally unrelated topic. How's Christmas shopping going for you guys? Or has anybody even started yet? I will answer that question. I have not. I am one of the most notorious procrastinators when it comes to Christmas shopping. I freely admit it. But how's anybody's Christmas shopping going? I mean, and you don't have to tell me, that's fine. But I mean, are you ahead of schedule, behind schedule, on schedule? Where are you at? Just thought I'd throw that out there. But thanks for stopping by on a Christmas Saturday morning, or Christmas season Saturday morning, I should say more precisely. And well, that's cool. That's cool. Which, by the way, check out Flagrant Triggers. If you're looking for ideas for Christmas gifts, he's got a website dedicated to all kinds of goodies you can give people. So check him out when you get a moment. FlagrantTriggers.com online. So let's slip ahead and talk about some other things that happened this week. I am almost done. Oh, that sounds delicious. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that. I am very glad to hear that. Homemade hand pies. Ugh. I'll eat lunch at some point, but please don't talk about food, right? No, I'm just kidding. Talk about food all you want to. After I got home from the colonoscopy the other day, believe me, I chowed down like you wouldn't believe. I'm ashamed of myself for everything I ate, but it was all so good, let me tell you. All right. Other things that happened this week. I said at the very top of the show, when I finally got my microphone working, that I had to thank you guys for some very, very big gains in the channel. And I still do. I always will. You guys are just tremendously awesome. And part of the reason for that growth was because myself and my good buddy Ruben Christopher Haynes, and Cam from Flagrant Triggers was in on one of these. We hosted some live streams on my channel. Oh, now there's a... You find yourself in a very crappy situation, sir, but our thoughts and prayers are with you. Ugh, I get it. But part of the reason why the channel experienced some growth is we did a couple live streams this week, and one of them was the Trump town hall, or that's what it was advertised as, by the way, where Trump was doing a conversation with Sean Hannity in front of some voters out in Iowa. And Gypsy made, one of my regular listeners, Gypsy, made this point, and I absolutely have to agree with her. What was the point of Trump doing this? Well, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It seemed like a lot of regurgitated lines that everybody's already heard. But on the other hand, you're a little over 30 days away from the Iowa caucus. You want to make sure you get everything nailed down. Trump's going to go out there. So I get why he did it. Do I necessarily think he's out there persuading people and changing minds in the Republican primary? Not necessarily. So on that point, Gypsy, I absolutely agree with you. You know, what was the point of doing all this? And from a standpoint of quotable items from Trump's appearance, there weren't a lot of them. However, Trump being Trump, you know he's going to say something that is going to trigger people on the political left. And sure enough, he did. I take you to a section of our live stream that myself and my good buddy Ruben Christopher Haynes were hosting together. And I want you to hear this, and then I think you'll see what I'm talking about when I say Trump knows how to trigger people. So I probably got this rewound a little too early, but here you go.
And they're obvious. There we go. Got it. Okay. Then Biden goes to see them about global warming.
About that chat.
No, this guy. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said,
sorry.
No. Other than day one.
I screwed this up. Here we go. Maybe.
Oh my God. What did
Hang on, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to stop it and start sharing it again.
Sorry about this, folks. When I restart the computer, this tends to happen.
I'm going to be, you know, he keeps, I love this guy. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator.
So that sounds to me.
Okay, Okay, that line, as you might imagine, that line did not go unnoticed. All right, let's just do it. Let's go to Morning Joe. And the reaction was predictable and not without surprise. So, yeah, the enemy of the people did exactly what they was expected of them. Yeah, they did exactly what was expected of them. So let me play this. And here you go.
If any other politician in American history were asked the question, are you going to be a dictator? No. There's a sickness. There is a sickness among, unfortunately, some of our fellow Americans regarding authoritarianism and totalitarianism. They want it because Willie, when he promised that he would be a dictator on day one, he got applause.
Yeah, you know, there are moments when I give people like Joe Scarborough credit, and it's this. I give them credit for being very intelligent people. And then it's moments like that that I wonder if I'm not giving them way too much credit. I mean, folks, there's a word, context. Okay? Do you not think, if you watch that clip of Trump, do you not think he realizes that he's joking? Do you not think he realizes he's trolling Sean Hannity, who's sitting 3 feet away from the guy? Just amazing. Just amazing. But yeah, like you said, TDS on display. You got it, Robert. I mean, he says one little thing. God, these people go nuts. Absolutely nuts. Ugh, just amazing. And no, don't ask me to do that again. I don't think I can replicate that reaction twice. But the Trump appearance was not the only thing that happened this week. There was a debate among Republican candidates who were running for president. And again, yeah, and Gypsy is absolutely right. She's over on Rumble right now. Says Joe and Mika are useful idiots. True dat, sister. True dat. But there was a debate among Republican candidates. And to go back to my dear friend Gypsy, yeah, there was a debate. She asked the question, why are we watching this? None of these people are going to be president. She's absolutely right. None of the 4 people on that stage in Tuscaloosa, Alabama are going to be Republican president. Okay? So, folks, hang on just 1 second. Gonna try and do something here real quick. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Matter of fact, let me type. Don't go anywhere. Sinuses are giving me a little bit of trouble, so give me 1 second here, folks. Be right back. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, can't disagree with that. That man absolutely knows how to play the media. Cannot disagree with that at all. But there was a debate among Republican candidates for president. None of them are going to be the Republican nominee. And even if any one of them were the Republican nominee, I don't think they beat Joe Biden. But that said, there were some takeaways, and I think legitimate ones. I think there were things that you guys observed, because I saw all your comments in chat. And by the way, thank you you guys were on fire that night. You were on fire that night on the Trump appearance. You were on fire during the DeSantis Newsom debate. You guys were fabulous in chat. So thank you so much for every contribution that you made during those events. But there were some takeaways, which you guys observed, I observed, Ruben observed, and they were these. And the Hill.com caught up with us as far as, like, oh, I think actually the guys from the Hill.com were listening to us, and they finally decided to write an article about it. 5 takeaways from the heated GOP debate. Article written by Carolyn Vacchiel, Jared Gans, and Julia Manchester. 4 Republican presidential candidates traded barbs Wednesday night during a fiery GOP debate as they looked to position themselves as the best alternative to former President Trump in the primary. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie participated in the 4th primary debate in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, which was hosted by the Hill sister organization newsnation. Here are 5 takeaways from the 4th debate. Number 1, the knives were out for Haley, and on this I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with this. Haley was the night's top target, particularly for Ramaswamy and DeSantis. The Florida governor, who has faced a threat from a surging Haley, took swipes at her out of the gate, accusing her of being weak when dealing with Democrats. DeSantis said he was, quote, sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country, accusing Haley of caving, quote, every time the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her. Additionally, DeSantis accused her of opposing bans on transgender surgery and of sending a love letter to the Chinese ambassador when she was governor of South Carolina in a bid to get Chinese businesses to move to the state. Ooh, I'd forgotten about that line, but that was very effective. Haley pushed back on both of those claims, but the most vitriolic criticism against Haley came from Ramaswamy, who has emerged as her main nemesis in each of the previous debates. Now, that's very true. And if you want an idea of how this went, let me pull up one particular exchange between Haley and DeSantis. Take a listen to this, because, and this has to do with the question of people and the context of it, registering their names on social media sites. In other words, if you're going to use these websites, you have to tell us who you are, which, boy, talk about a violation of Fourth Amendment right to privacy. But anyway, let me pull this up and let you listen to how much flack she was getting. Take a listen to this.
I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
That's false. She said, I want your name. She as President of the United States, her first day in office, she said, one of the first things I'm going to do.
I said we were going to get the millions of bots.
She wants government ID to
dox every American.
That's what she said. You can roll the tape. She said, I want your name. And that was going to be one of the first things she did in office. And then she got real serious blowback, and understandably so, because it'd be a massive expansion of government. We have anonymous speech. The Federalist Papers were written with anonymous writers.
And that's absolutely true. So that's just one example of what she was getting that night. And go a little further. Let me see what other clips I've got here. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a real good one. Hang on a second. Yeah,
Hamas did was medieval.
Yeah. I gotta put this. This one's really good. They talk about in the article that Vivek Ramaswamy has come forward as sort of her main protagonist, and I can't disagree with that. And I think you're going to understand what I'm getting to in this clip, because this is just kind of amazing to watch. If I can get this thing to play. Oh yeah, I think so. Hang on a minute. Yeah, I think I can do it. So anyway, they get into an exchange with each other, and take a listen to this. Oh, no. White circle of death. Hang on. Yeah, that's too good. Okay, here we go. Here's what I'm looking for. Listen to this.
What happened to Israel was dead wrong. What Hamas did was medieval. It was subhuman. It was immoral. And we have to call that out for what it is on October 7th. But to say that that was an attack on America fails a basic test. I mean, Nick, if you can't tell the difference between where Israel is and the U.S. is on a map, I can have my 3-year-old son show you the difference. Neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces.
Yeah, that gives you some idea of what Nikki was getting that night. And I'm not surprised. I mean, from DeSantis' perspective, he's got to blunt. Oh, I know. It's absolutely priceless. And he kept saying the vapid, empty look on her face. No, that wasn't a vapid, empty look. That's a woman that is grinding her teeth beneath her lips. She would love nothing better than to walk over there and slap him into the middle of next week if she could get away with doing it. No, she was just mad. But it's one of those moments you can't do anything to the guy. I mean, you can, but you either come off one of two things. Either you look really, really, you look really petty, or you really look like you're whining. One of the two. I mean, you could do it right. I'm not saying it can't be done, but you run the risk of really looking really petty or looking really whiny. And yeah, Gypsy, I did. Hang on a minute, because I got to pull this up. Gypsy sent me something, and I'm going to put this into the mix. Let me find this here real fast, because this is just... There was a segment of that debate where it went dark, and no one could quite figure out why. Well, I'm going to play something for you, and I don't know if I had not seen this until Gypsy brought it to my attention, and I'll let you guys see it. I'm going to play it without, make up your own mind about this. There was a segment where all of a sudden, and I thought it was my fault. I thought I had done something wrong. There was a segment where they just froze up. Couldn't figure out what happened. Well, somebody, this Michael Singer, and I've never really heard of him. I don't know that much about him. But he posted this on Twitter. And I want you to hear it. Now, I don't know what was said during the segment where it froze up. No idea, but he's putting this out here. And for the sake of conversation, I'll let you guys look at it. So take a look at this. And I'll read this before I get started. During the last GOP debate, the entire discussion on liability for COVID vaccine injuries and the Trump administration's fast-tracking development of these mRNA vaccines through Operation Warp Speed was blacked out, allegedly due to technical issues. So he says he found this. And again, I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm putting this out here for the purposes of discussion. Take a listen to what may have been said during the blackout.
Marketplace begins. That's crony capitalism, and that's the answer.
Okay, through Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time.
Screen froze, then went black. Now that part I absolutely remember. Didn't realize it lasted for 8 minutes. Now this is what he's saying we did not see.
The Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time. The program protected the drug companies from virtually all lawsuits over vaccine injuries. The government has a program to compensate for such harm, but critics say it is a black hole of bureaucracy. 12,000 claims filed, 10% decided, only 8 payouts so far, in a forum with no right to counsel, no hearings, no appeals. Mr. Trump says he's very proud of warp speed. Should he be?
Now, I remember the question. I do remember this question. I will say that much. And I think I remember something or part of an answer. Now, whether this is exactly how it went down, I don't remember, but I'll continue playing this.
Well, this question specifically on liability goes back to actually Reagan. And Reagan is a president who I admire. Many of us do. I think that reviving that spirit is in many ways going to be good for this country in so many ways. But one of the areas where he erred was this special form of lobbying to say that one kind of manufacturer, a vaccine manufacturer, cannot be sued for their product liability. So I have pledged, it is part of my legislative agenda, we will repeal that, just like we will repeal every other form of crony capitalism. People who have been harmed by those vaccines deserve accountability. They cannot be forgotten Americans. And I think one of the top lessons we learned from that COVID pandemic is that free speech in this country is most important in those alleged times of emergency. If we had been allowed to openly debate the merits of those vaccines, they would have been never mandated in the way that they were. And in general, I don't think that we should want capitalism and democracy to share the same bed anymore. It's time for a clean divorce. Let companies be companies, but I don't like the crony capitalism. This dates back a long time in both parties. And I think that we need to end the lobbying. And I personally believe that if you have been working in the government, you should not lobby that government for 10 years. If you have been a government elected official doing deals with companies, be they Boeing or be they pharmaceutical companies, you should not join the board of that company for 10 years after. The former chairman of the FDA, the leader commissioner of the FDA, ended up on the board of Pfizer. Nikki Haley did deals with Boeing, ends up on the board of Boeing. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We need some basic principles that end the corruption in government. That's how we got the health insurance exemptions. That's how we got the pharmaceutical product liability exemptions.
thank you.
End the corruption.
We need.
Okay. Okay. All right. I watched the debate the next day on YouTube. It was in the rebroadcast. I heard. Okay. All right. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. And Gypsy, thank you for sending this to me because I didn't, this is obviously a part of it that I did not see. So I'm very glad to get my hands on this. Very glad. But yeah, there were exchanges like that. There's one more I'll play for you. And this is between Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy. And let me tell you something. I don't think these guys, after the election is over, are going to be going out to bars and drinking beer together. Okay. I mean, everybody keeps saying that Vivek Ramaswamy is the nemesis to Nikki Haley. I'll make an argument that Vivek Ramaswamy is the pain in Chris Christie's side. If you don't believe me, take a listen to this one.
Okay, you say this, you do this at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to say what
exactly what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this
now
is
look.
This is nonsense. This man is spewing. This man is spewing nonsense.
Let me tell you something. This is the fourth debate. The fourth debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America. So shut up for a little while.
Okay, I'm sorry. The idea that Chris Christie gets to call anybody an obnoxious blowhard is absolutely hysterical to me. Yeah. And actually, I want to go back. There was another comment. I think it was Leanne that put this in. Hang on a minute. I got to find this. May have been Leanne. Pretty sure it was. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, at one point in the debate, I guess Vivek Ramaswamy and Ron DeSantis were beating up on Nikki Haley so badly. Chris Christie comes in and tries to white knight on her behalf. Now, okay, maybe he's doing it out of genuineness. I'm not saying he didn't, or, I'm not going to impugn his motives in that moment, but it just kind of seems strange to me. I mean, should each of them be calling for each other to be civil? Yeah, I get that. But I don't know. She's a big girl. They're big boys. She's running for president of the United States. Seems to me you ought to be able to take the slings and arrows of outrageous political fortune and deal with them. Somebody should be coming in and white knighting on your behalf, or more to the point, they shouldn't feel the need to do it. It makes you look weak. But that's just me. Hang on a second. Get me situated in this chair. On occasion I get accused of being overly formal, but I don't know that I can top Chris Christie on this one. If he'd have done that, I think I literally would have fallen out of my chair. Oh my gosh. Too funny. Too funny. It is, what is it now? 10 minutes after 12. It is Saturday afternoon. It is Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Tripp, and I am your Front Porch Conservative. And we've now reached the section of our show where we do stories that are referred to as HodgePodge Stew. And these are stories that are maybe not above the electronic fold on the electronic newspaper, but they're stories of interest, and they're thought-provoking, and they're funny. They make you scratch your head. They make you want to shout, and whatever. And one of them is not necessarily politically related, but in the time we've got left, I definitely want to get to this one. And I'm pretty sure you guys heard about this. And I will admit, even though I didn't agree with his politics, the man was absolutely impactful in his life, and unfortunately, he's no longer here with us. The legendary television producer Norman Lear, who produced All in the Family along with a slew of other shows in the 1970s and early 80s, has passed away at the age of 101. And like I said, I may not have disagreed with him, but I will make an argument that the country has suffered a cultural loss. Now, like I said, you can disagree with his politics, you can whatever. Okay, and that's fine. Perfectly fine. But there's no denying the man's talent. All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Maude, Good Times, Sanford. There's just 5 shows right there that he had a hand directly in creating. And when it comes to All in the Family, he created probably one of the most endearing characters in all of television. Not necessarily endearing, depending on how you feel about him, but enduring. You say the name Archie Bunker, and if you have ever watched that show or you know anything about All in the Family, you have an immediate reaction. And the character was played brilliantly by the late Carol O'Connor. And absolutely, that's part of his background. Absolutely part of his background. He's a World War II veteran. If I remember reading the stories correctly, he was a radio operator on a B-17 for all of his time in World War II. Or most of it, anyway. Matter of fact, his plane was shot down, and his best buddy died in combat. And even though it was 70 years later, I read a story where someone had visited with him a couple of days before he died. No, it wasn't a couple of days. I stand corrected. It was maybe a couple of years ago. And they were talking about Norman Lear's experiences in World War II, and Lear brought up that his best buddy had died. And even though it was 70 years later, he'd get tears in his eyes talking about it. The man lived a life. And as you would expect, someone of that kind of creative influence passes from the scene, people are going to write stories. And there's one of them I found this morning in the Washington Times, of all places, which that might surprise people to see an article written about a liberal lion like Norman Lear, an article appearing, positive article, by the way, in the Washington Times. But it's a very thoughtful article, and I want to read some of this. And then I want to ask you guys a question. So the article is from a writer who I really love. I don't bring him up a lot on this show, not because I'm trying to hide anything from you guys. Just normally something doesn't come across. I want to tie it into what we're doing. But Charlie Hurt, who is a fabulous, fabulous writer for the Washington Times, wrote this article. The headline is "An Ode to Archie Bunker, Armchair Philosopher and True Key to Progress." Starts out like this. The problem with today's so-called progressives is that they do not believe in true progress. They believe in immediate and iron-fisted obedience, instant conformity to whatever happens to be their latest moral fever dream. They demand obedience, and conformity is in not only your behavior but your thoughts. And wouldn't you know it, it would shut me out. Yeah. But I'll go ahead and give you the gist of it. Charlie Hurt made the argument that by displaying somebody like Archie Bunker, that was actually it led to progress. We got to see Archie Bunker's positions, and it moved things forward, which I thought was a very interesting take on it. But here's the question that I've got for you guys. Here's the question I've got. If Norman Lear were in his prime, okay, could he get a show like All in the Family on television today? I'll ask that question again. If Norman Lear were alive and in his prime, could he get a show like All in the Family on television today? Or I'll take it one step further. And y'all have probably asked this question amongst yourselves. If Mel Brooks tried to pitch Blazing Saddles to studio producers and studio executives today, could he get Blazing Saddles made? And if you see Blazing Saddles, you probably realize where I'm going with this. All right, so we got some answers to the question already. Leanne says no. Small Time says absolutely not. I tend to agree with you guys. Not here, not in any Western country. I'll absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. People are too sensitive, and what was funny back then is now hate speech. Very true. Yeah, I don't think Norman Lear or Mel Brooks, either one, could get their shows or their movies made today. And to me, it is the supreme irony of the supposed progressive, tolerant left. They say they believe in free speech until it's the kind of speech they find offensive. Now, maybe I'm not saying that correctly, or I'm not saying it as articulately as other people might, but you kind of get the idea where I'm going with this. They're all about free speech so long as they approve of it. And if they don't approve of it, well, we can't have people saying these sort of things. These are terrible. These are horrible ideas. And I do want to put this up for the sake of fairness. From Mark Grobert saying that Lear had stole or took from British sitcoms. So Lear was, now I hope that's not true. I mean, I'm not saying Mark Grobert is wrong, so don't misunderstand me here. But if that's true, that kind of takes the shine off what Norman Lear did. But yeah, I thought I saw that about Lear having passed away, and it made me sad. It really did, because like I said, the man was extraordinarily influential in the area of television. Of any of those 5 shows that I named, I'll almost guarantee you there was probably a point where most American families made it a point to tune in to one or more of those shows in their heyday when they were running on television. And okay, all right. Please do. Please do. Yeah, let me see it. Yeah, shoot it to me. I appreciate that. Oh, okay. He did copy it. I did not realize that. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Did not realize that. But yeah, like I said, I saw that Lear had passed, and it got me thinking that very question. And I come back to it because I have friends of mine. We absolutely love Blazing Saddles. I mean, and like a lot of people, I could quote lines from it. I won't, but I could. But there's no way guys like Mel Brooks or Norman Lear could get these kind of shows made today, because the supposed progressive left that believes in free speech doesn't really believe in free speech. I don't care what they say. They just don't. Yeah. So, yep, exactly my point. You either watch it as a family or you'd watch it when it was in reruns. Exactly. So yeah, the country, while I disagree with his politics, because I mean, Lear was known as an absolute lion of liberalism. The man was extraordinarily talented. So very sorry to see him pass from the scene. I got about 10 minutes left. I want to get one more thing in here. Yeah, and now you begin to see, I mean, I've still got a string of tabs up here with at least probably a good half an hour, 45 minutes worth of conversation. And unfortunately, I've got a place I got to be. So I'm thinking about adding an extra hour starting in January, because it's kind of reaching that point. But there's one last thing I want to get into real quick for this section of HodgePodge Stew. And I don't know if you guys had heard about it. We'll turn back to politics on this subject. But had you heard about two of the most notable Well, thank you. That's very kind of you guys to say. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm really thinking about adding a third hour. I really do. Might have to. Well, I'll just keep some of my thoughts to it. But yeah, that's very gracious of you guys. Very gracious. But there are two major members of the House of Representatives who announced their retirements this week. One of them may not be a name real familiar to you, and it goes to this. Patrick McHenry of North Carolina, who's, I guess, in his late 40s or early 50s, he's retiring at the end of this session. But the one most notable to everybody is Kevin McCarthy, the former Speaker of the House. He says he's leaving at the end of the year. And when McCarthy was removed from the speakership, I kind of expected he would retire. I didn't think he'd do it at the end of the year. I thought he'd wait till after the next election. But he's choosing to leave now. McHenry's going to leave in November, after November 2024. And there's a lot that can be said about both of these guys, and probably most of it would be applicably true. But they are leaving. And there was an article written in thehill.com, and I want to point it out to you guys, because there is one point in here that I absolutely agree with. 5 takeaways from McCarthy's exit from Congress. And first, the end of the Young Guns era. All 3 of these guys, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, Eric Cantor, they're all gone. They're out. Yeah, well, and I respect that. I totally respect that. Because there were all kinds of feelings on all kinds of sides on that one. And yeah, I totally get it. I totally understand that. But all 3 of these guys, who were viewed as the future of American politics for the Republican Party, they're gone. But it's the next point. Well, it's this one. Well, no, it's not that one. Here we go. Shift in the GOP. Oh, God, I hope that's not true. I really hope that's not true. Ugh. Anyway, McCarthy is the latest in a growing list of House GOP veterans running for the exits, a trend that highlights the shift in the Republican Party away from traditional Chamber of Commerce conservatism that defined the GOP in previous decades to an America First dogma ushered in by the Tea Party movement and accelerated under former President Trump. McCarthy is resigning by the end of the year, marking the third straight House GOP leader nudged into early retirement by right-wing agitators. I disagree with that statement. And Representative Patrick McHenry, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, and Kay Granger, chairman of the Appropriations Committee, have both said they will not run for re-election, depriving the House of roughly 60 years of combined experience when including McCarthy. As longtime House lawmakers flee the Capitol, more firebrand conservatives are taking their spots, and with that, changing the disposition of the House GOP conference. The conference, for example, has grown more isolationist on foreign policy issues. I don't know if I'd agree with that word. And has used the hardline tactics more often to push for various demands, like leveraging shutdowns for spending cuts. Gates, a close ally of Trump and a rabble-rouser in the House GOP conference, said he hopes the establishment exodus leads to the arrival of a new crop of firebrand conservatives willing to adopt his take-no-prisoners tactics. Quote, "There's an establishment exodus from the House conference. It's my hope that we backfill these establishment entities with folks who are willing to fight for the America First agenda," Gates wrote on Twitter in response to McCarthy's resignation. I do agree. I agree in part with what the author of this article has said. There is a definite, not just generational, there's a distinct ideological shift that's happening in the House Republican caucus. And now, don't get me wrong. I am frequently disappointed by the actions of the House Republicans. And more often than not, it comes down to they have the uncanny ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. All they have to do is stand strong on a certain issue, and they'll win. What do? They cave. And Mike Johnson anymore is absolutely doing more of that than I care to see. But laying aside disappointments, the trend is there. And it will be fascinating to watch over the years coming what kind of Republican Party the GOP turns into. I don't know. Yet to be determined. But it's definitely there. It's definitely observable and definitely worth watching. Well, folks, it is almost 12:30, and my sinuses are just absolutely driving me nuts right now. So I want to thank every one of you for stopping in for Front Porch Brunch. We've been on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter, and you guys are awesome. I cannot continue to thank you enough. You guys are absolutely amazing. We will be back next week with videos. For sure, we're doing our live stream next Saturday morning for Front Porch Brunch, but we'll be back with videos, and you just never know. Keep your eyes open. Always hit the bell for notifications, by the way. Want to make sure you guys are always up to date on everything going on. And again, God bless you. Thank you for everything. You guys are awesome. Without you, this channel does not grow. And boy, have you grown it big time in 8 days. You guys are awesome. So, yeah, I got to do something here because this is just awful. Anyway, as we close it out, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall. It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, more money. Merry Christmas, folks. We'll see you next time.